I saw this on Twitter, so I kind of stole it.
Oh, let's go.
So.
X. Saw it on X.
I'm not going to call it X. I refuse to call it X. Every time someone calls it X, Elon Musk gets his wings. His demonic wings. There you go. Hello and welcome to the first episode of Popcorn Bucket List of 2024. That's right. There we go. Back at it again. Back in the saddle.
That was a short one.
Yeah, I was trying to do it with your hands, and then I looked up and you just kind of did that. But you know what? You get the message across. You figured it out.
That's right.
We know what year it is at this point. Hey, here's to another year of movies, to entertainment, to talking them at length with you here, bud.
I appreciate it.
Here's to 2024.
Here's to you.
No
pop. Okay, let me ask you this. Do you consider Brisk a pop?
Is it fizzy?
No.
Then no.
It's Brisk juice drink.
Oh, then no, it's juice.
All right, so today is no pop. Let's go.
I had pop like probably at midnight, so I was out of that.
The first hour after midnight doesn't count because.
Well, then I'm still out of it because I had it at like 2 a.m. Anyway, so yeah, let's get into some movie talk here. There's been a lot that's going on since we've had a break here. It was good to have a break, but at the same time, I was like, well, there's a lot of stuff we could be talking about here.
I felt like I missed, I kept what's coming out this week? What is it? Something's got to be coming out. I kept oh, what's new? I know stuff is coming out, but yeah.
I think it's good to address that here. It's January. It's known as dump month.
Yep.
Not the best stuff coming out here. We will talk about there are some movies premiering on streaming services and theaters and all that. We will talk about that later on. But we're going to focus a little bit more on some news events, some opening spotlight stuff, all that sort of thing. An hour before we recorded the last episode of the year last year.
Yep.
Major story broke.
Major.
We alluded to it.
Major.
I didn't even mean that.
Wow.
Pun. I didn't even
mean that. That's a good one.
I didn't even mean that, but I'll take it. Yeah, it was like an hour before we filmed. We didn't have time to really dive into it and include it in the show, and then we had the 2-week break. So you've probably heard by now a major update in the Jonathan Majors case. He was convicted of assault. Sentencing, from what I understand, will be around February. I don't know. I kind of thought there was a good chance it may go this way, and I think Disney as a corporation knew this was a good chance too. I wouldn't be surprised if they had 2 social media posts just ready to go.
Yeah.
One if he was convicted, one if it wasn't.
I think they had a whole array of things that they could say if it went this way, and a whole array of things they could say if it went that way.
Yeah. And I think when we talk about this, when we first talked about this, Disney was very silent about it. They didn't react to it at all. Yep. And I did kind of praise them of that early on, because at one point there was the whole James Gunn thing, which was a way less controversy compared to this one. And they pretty quickly reacted. And I think arguably maybe overreacted, and a little too quickly. So I think they learned from that lesson. So they're like, okay, we're going to kind of let this one play out. But we kind of have a few situations prepared here. So in case you haven't heard about everything there, we're not going to get too much into the recap. We've talked about that at length on past episodes. Go and check those out if you have a chance. The MCU as a whole now, they've got some decisions to be made here. We're going to talk about what they have so far announced, and I think we're going to speculate a little bit here about what we think maybe should happen.
Yeah.
But the major thing, I guess...
Major?
I swear I'm not doing it on purpose. I got to figure out a different word. The main thing...
the critical thing.
About this is looking at the slate of future MCU films. Originally, Avengers, essentially, I guess, 5 was going to be called the Kang Dynasty. Yep. Obviously, Kang the Conqueror was going to be a huge part of this. And then Avengers 6 was going to be Secret Wars. Now, it's already been reported that Secret Wars is going to be kind of a soft reboot for the MCU, potentially. I can see where they're going for that, but they still got to get through Avengers 5. As of right now, from what I've read, they have now just essentially called it Avengers 5. It's no longer called Avengers the Kang Dynasty.
Yeah.
So I think they're kind of they're trying to figure out what they're going to do here next too, and they're just kind of like leaving it open. They could very easily bring that back, I guess, at some point. And this isn't anything necessarily new either. I remember back when they were announcing a huge part of their slate and Avengers Infinity War was coming out. Initially, the title was Avengers Infinity War Part 1 and Avengers Infinity War Part 2.
Yep.
And then people got mad because, like, we don't want Part 1, Part 2 films anymore because, like, Twilight and Harry Potter and all them.
Everything.
And, like, all those, they kind of ruined those because it was, like, those didn't need to be Part 1, Part 2s, but this one kind of actually was. So then, like, okay, fine, we'll just name it Avengers Endgame. And everyone's like, that's better. I'm like, it's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
Anyways, so there is precedent of them, like, changing these Avengers titles. I don't think there's anything crazy about that, but I find it interesting. The thing about Kang the Conqueror is it has to do with timeline, multiverse stuff. At any moment, it could, to quote Doc Brown here, think about this fourth dimensionally. The thing about time travel and all that is you can make it look like everything's set up this one way, and then one thing changes, and then everything gets changed.
Yeah.
And in a weird way, so now I guess we're kind of moving on to the speculation part. Is there anything else I missed? Is there anything that's happening?
Like, because although I think you have a better understanding because you've seen season 2 of Loki. And from what I have heard, he's pretty not heavily, but he's involved in that. So I haven't seen season 2 of Loki yet, so I don't know where it's at for sure in the already let out MCU stuff, already shown MCU stuff. But yeah, I have no idea what their plan was. I think some of that too is good that they released some of the title names and upcoming projects, but I don't think they all have been too detailed with who they're gonna be fighting, what they're doing, what are the stakes. Like they weren't, which is good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm glad you bring up Loki season 2 because Loki season 2, what they did may actually. Okay, I'm trying to figure out how I want to put this. In a weird way, they have set up something to save Marvel, but also have made it super complicated for Marvel to save them. I don't know if this is making sense. Okay, so what I'm trying to say here is, when you look at Loki season 2, there is no way they shot and wrote that knowing how this Jonathan Majors situation was going to go out.
Yep.
And yet, at the same time, when I watch that, it's almost like a setup, like a backup plan. Like there could I don't know how much I want to get into Loki season 2 because I don't want to spoil too much of it. Especially Carter. He's on the MCU catch up right now. He's not up there yet. So I don't know how much I want to say it. All I'm going to say is they have established things that if certain actors involved in it want to keep being involved in the MCU could easily take over could kind of take over certain roles that may now be vacant of the Kang character. That is one option. They could essentially do the same story they were originally planning, but maybe just throw in a few different characters. Yeah. That's option A. Another thing that's been thrown around a lot, recasting. There's another precedent to this, I think.
Yep.
War Machine was not always Don Cheadle.
That's true.
They've recasted for way less of a reason. Could we see just a Kang the Conqueror recast?
Yep. But is there an actor? Jonathan Majors is a good actor. Looking at his acting skills, he is a good actor. Is there somebody that could bring that same... We all talk about, like, looking back as Don Cheadle's War Machine to... I don't even remember the guy's name. I can see his face. But they are vastly different roadies. Vastly different.
See, now my mind is blank, too. I can think of it, too, but I can't think of it right now. It's the guy from Empire.
Yeah.
Why can I not think of the name? I feel so bad right
Jesse now. Smollett?
No, not that one. Terrence Howard. Terrence Howard. Yes, he was originally War Machine. He did not take a pay cut, is the story, and so then they recasted him.
And I don't know if it was an actual wouldn't take a pay cut. They wouldn't give him as much as he wanted more.
That might have been what it was.
Because he was saying, it's all about Tony, but it's all about me too. I'm a main character here.
Which, to be fair, the second Iron Man did focus a little bit more on Rhodey too.
Yep.
So I can kind of see where he's coming from there. I don't think he realized how big of a franchise this would be, and even taking a pay cut would have been okay.
Taking a pay
long
cut
run
for one movie, but doing 7 more movies.
Yeah, that's just not as much forward thinking. But I don't think anyone knew how big it was going to be at that time.
Nobody knew.
But you bring up also another interesting point is if they do recast, who can fill those shoes?
Because like look at I always think back to Fantastic Beasts. When they recast for that.
Yeah.
I like Mads, but was that
it was a different thing than Johnny Depp was doing.
Yeah, it was just a much more it almost was a completely different character.
Yeah.
And I still liked it. I liked them, they're all right. But it was just like this is just a different movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's so, and since you were in Ant-Man, you were in Loki. Was he in anything else?
I'm sure it was. Yeah, he was in Ant-Man and Loki was the big ones.
The big ones, yeah.
That's
maybe little cameos and other things,
or
little things. But like, I think it'd be possible, but it might give you that straw man or that like, oh hey, that's the new Kang,
mm-hmm.
And it didn't work that all the Kangs look identical. You know what I mean? Like,
oh god, talk about writing yourself into a corner with that post-credit scene of
there's
Ant-Man
millions
3.
of Kangs out there, but they're all the exact same guy.
They all look like Jonathan Majors. Yeah. Okay, so a rumored recasting early on when this story first broke, John Boyega.
Give him a shot. Give him a chance. He got kind of gypped in Star Wars, in my opinion, and give him a chance.
I would say I would really like him as that as well. From what I've read, rumor has it he is not interested.
What?
Really? That's the rumor I'm reading.
Okay.
Which means one of two things. Either A, he does feel gypped by Star Wars, which he was.
Yes,
he was set up very well in Force Awakens, and they kind of did nothing with him in the next 2 movies.
Yeah.
In which case, then he doesn't really want to work with Disney anymore, which can't blame him. Or 2, they haven't offered him enough money yet.
True.
Which, that's more often than not when you hear people like saying, oh, I don't want to come back to the sequel. I don't want to come back and direct or whatever. It's not because they don't want to. It's because the studio hasn't offered them much more money. It's like 8 out of 10 times that's like the situation here. So we'll have to keep an eye on that.
But I think if Disney does decide to go the recasting route and they want him, they'll eventually pay whatever he wants.
Yeah.
If they think it's going to get the post superhero kind of fatigue back going in the right direction, I think they would pay a lot for that.
I'm actually leaning towards not the recasting route, though. However, I will say
you're leaning towards
come
up with different idea.
Not so much a different idea, but you, like I said, with Loki season 2, and again, I'm not going to get too much into it. They do set up some potential replacement
of the heavy.
There's like a couple of people. Like there's options plural there that could take over if they rework the story a little bit. Oh, this character could be the one that takes over the multiverse, or this one's doing this and there's another threat or something like that. So,
well, let me ask you this. Whatever happened with the Eternals?
I'm still holding on to I think the Eternals is a long, long game. I think the Eternals is something that's going to be after the multiversal war.
Okay.
And is something like way after. So here's my setup. Here's my theory. I think we had the Infinity Saga that dealt with the Infinity Stones. That was all everything there. Right now we're in the multiversal saga. That's with the multiverse. I think Secret Wars is going to come out, and that's going to be the soft reboot where everything's going to kind of solidify into one timeline again, potentially.
Yep.
And then we're going to have the mutant saga. That's kind of what's been rumored and kicked around right now. Now, the mutants include the X-Men mainly, but I think they're also going to throw Fantastic Four into that as well.
Yep.
A big thing with Fantastic Four is Galactus. That kind of connects to the Eternals a little bit because he's like a celestial type.
Okay.
Or like an off type or something like that. So I think when I watch the end of the Eternals and basically they decide, hey, we're not going to have this Eternal be born so that way Earth dies or whatever. And then the one guy judges them. He's like, all right, I'm going to keep an eye on this planet. You guys think it's special enough that an Eternal couldn't be born. We're going to keep an eye on it then. Yeah. I think Galactus is going to raise some heck. and it's going to be the heroes from Earth that stop Galactus as they usually do, like the Fantastic Four, like the X-Men. And then that's going to be how they tie it to Eternals later on. That's going to be like
that sounds like 15 years down the road.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who knows? There's been crazier things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah.
I'm saying I'm going to wait about a decade before I find out if I'm right or wrong on that one. But
well, and I really liked some of the casting for Eternals. So
yeah, it's
more so the Black Knight, Green Knight, Black Knight.
Black Knight, yeah.
I
that's
like
the Marvel one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting time for the MCU here. We'll have to, I don't know, any other speculations of what you think may or may not happen here?
I think I need to see Loki 2 before I can really, but I could see them.
And this is what is so fascinating to me about Loki season 2 is looking back on it now, it's like, in a weird way, they set themselves up with a backup plan, but there is, in my opinion, no way they would have written that script before this all went down where they like set that up, especially when you consider Jonathan Majors was actually in Loki season 2.
Yeah.
And there's no, if like they did this to
well,
set
he was
up,
in the first one.
Yeah, but the first season happened before all of this happened.
Yeah,
all of it happened. The show was out. Like I'm pretty sure they filmed everything with Jonathan Majors before this whole situation happened as well.
Yeah.
So I guarantee you, there's no way they did Loki season 2 with the intention of it setting itself up as a backup plan. They did Loki season 2 because they just wanted to do Loki season 2. And just by circumstance, by some sort of lucky, unfortunate circumstance, I feel like looking back on it, they have set themselves up with something to fall back on with this whole situation here. But
it's being smart, maybe.
I'm going to call it dumb luck.
Yeah.
Personally,
all right.
I'm going to call it blind, stupid, dumb luck. But I don't know. Maybe Kevin Feige is thinking fourth dimensional chest.
You never know.
I don't know. Only he knows. Only the great Feige knows. But yeah, that's kind of our takes on that whole situation here. Like I said, there's been a bunch of stuff going on here. We didn't even have a chance to talk about Mickey Mouse, how he's in the public domain, or at least a version of him. It's confusing. We'll maybe talk about that next week.
Although I did see reports of Mickey Mouse horror movies, already.
That can all be something we can maybe talk about next week here. But let's go into the official opening spotlight here today. 2023 has come and gone. Let's talk about some of our favorite and least favorite moments of 2023. And we're doing this as our partnership with the Lyon County Library continues here. Some of these movies we talk about here will be on display, and many more of our favorites will be on there, over there as well. You can go and check those out over at the Lyon County Library. But let's talk about some other things here. I've basically broken it down into 4 categories that I'm especially interested in. We're going to talk about our most disappointed movie, our most surprised movie, the one that we had no intention of liking but loved maybe, our least favorite movie, and we will round things out with our favorite movie of 2023. Perfect. Sound good?
Perfect.
I think that sounds... I saw this on Twitter, so I kind of stole
Oh, let's go. So. X. Saw it on X.
I'm not going to call it X. I refuse to call it X. Every time someone calls it X, Elon Musk gets his wings. His demonic wings. There you go.
Is it like the actual, I don't have it, so is it x.com or is it twitter.com? Like if you were to go on a website.
Well, let's find out.
Or on your computer.
Nope, it's still called twitter.com.
It is? Okay.
But it's labeled X.
But it's labeled X? Funny.
That is weird. Oh my gosh, what is happening to this world?
I don't know.
Anyways, speaking of disappointing things here, let's talk about the most disappointing movie of 2023. This is the one we had the highest hopes for, went into it, thought it was going to be great, and then kind of left going, I don't know about that. I can kick us off on this one if that's all right. Renfield. I had such high hopes for this movie. Nick Cage as Dracula, Nicholas Hoult as a half human, half vampire character, Awkwafina, who I still defend, although this movie did not make it easy to defend her.
Yeah.
But Nick Cage as Dracula. How is this movie not as funny or as action packed as it was? I don't know.
Yeah, that movie. I completely forgot all about it until you brought it
That's
up.
That's kind of my
actually.
point. I'm the only one who remembers that movie exists only because it was so disappointing to me.
Yeah,
that's the lasting effect it had on me. Was every time I think about it, I was like, I wish it was better. I wish it was better. It should have been better. I don't know why it wasn't better. You had everything going for you there on that one, but whatever. How about you? What was your?
Is this the one I didn't have?
This is the only one you did not put on here.
So this one was kind of interesting for me because this year I think will also be known as a very strong horror/scary year. This year there's a lot of good horror movies and a lot of okay ones. One I had, maybe it was my fault for having really high hopes, but I was really hoping the new Exorcist movie was going to be good, Exorcist Believer. And not saying that it was terrible, but I got so pumped because I wanted it to be like the original. And I just didn't feel that. I enjoyed it. I liked it. I thought the practical effects with the faces looked really good. But I didn't get that horror, that scary. There's another film on the list that I think was a much better horror movie this year, but I
see where you're coming from on that one. It's kind of the similar feeling I had for Redville. Is like all the ingredients were there.
Yeah.
The actors were there. You were bringing back some of like the legacy cast, and you had some young faces that could have added to it. Like everything was there.
It was there.
Why did you miss the mark?
Yep. It's you got all the ingredients to make a perfect cake. You put
it comes out
oven,
and it comes out like
it's a brick. What happened?
What happened? Where did we go wrong? Everything was there. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. But
that was one of the biggest disappointments. Just because I think I might have amped myself up a little bit too much for it too.
I warned you that would happen.
Yeah, and I was like, no, it's gotta be good.
I feel like I remember back when we watched that, you were kind of still defending it. I feel like just because you were so amped for it, you were like the one who was like, yeah, it's not as good as everyone said, but I liked it. I really, really liked it.
And that's the hard part because I might really dislike. I don't want to say this. I'm not a person that if I sit down and watch a movie and I say this movie's bad, it's really bad. Like I find some enjoyment out of it, whether it's laughing along with it or laughing at it or actually enjoying it. Like I still enjoyed it, but it was not nearly as good as I thought it could have been. And it was disappointing, but I still liked it. Like if it's hard to, I love movies and I'll sit down and watch terrible stuff if I have to, but it's just, I like to watch them and it just didn't hit the mark. And it was sad.
Hey, we talk a lot about movies on this channel, but sometimes the ones we talk about aren't the most accessible. That's where the Marshall-Lyon County Library comes in handy. They have a great collection of physical media, as well as a couple of online services with many, many options for movies, TV shows, and documentaries. It's easy. Just get your own library card at the Marshall-Lyon County Library and gain access to their large variety of movies, TV shows, and of course, books. Also, be sure to check back every month as we here at Popcorn Bucket List make specific movie recommendations based on a monthly theme. So head on over to the Marshall-Lyon County Library for some of our favorites and check out the channel to get even more movie recommendations. And now, on with the show! But let's look at the flip side of that coin here. Let's talk about the most surprising movie, the one we had almost no expectations with, or even if we had high expectations, still exceeded them here. Why don't you kick us off here on this one? I 100% agree with your pick on this one. Let them know, what's your most surprising movie?
My most surprising movie of 2023 has got to be Godzilla -1. Absolutely fantastic movie. Heard nothing about it till like a week or two before like it came to Marshall, and I was like, people are raving that this is like the best movie of the year. I was like, it's a Godzilla movie, I thought, okay, yeah, sure, it's got to be good. And then I went and saw it, and I was blown away. How it's not. I wouldn't even call it a monster movie. It was much more of a drama and a little more actiony than a monster movie.
It had a lot of heart considering it's about a lizard who destroys a metropolitan city.
It was such a good got fit because this is like their like 35th film in the Godzilla franchise,
give or take,
and excuse me, easily goes up there to one of the top ones I think of the franchise. And I just heard, excuse me,
take a breath, my friend, take a breather.
Okay. I just heard they are re-releasing it now and it's going to be in black and white.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if it comes anywhere near, I might go and watch it just to, even though it's not going to be that different. I just think and Godzilla looked so good, so good. The mechanics were right. The mechanics of, I think it harkened back to the old Godzilla, the rubber suit Godzilla, and I enjoyed that. I liked that. It wasn't as smooth as people may have wanted, but I really enjoyed it. Hands down, one of the best movies of the year.
Mm-hmm. For me, you talk about how you usually enjoy horror movies. You watch a lot of them. I don't watch as many of them. Like 90% of the horror movies I've watched are the ones you've dragged me to or whatever. Mm-hmm. And most of the time I can usually find something I like or maybe one or two things that kind of gets me through it. One that I had no struggle enjoying with was Talk to Me. This was a horror movie, so it kind of has an uphill battle for someone like me who's not a big fan of that genre. Mm-hmm. But this one hit the ground running and just never let go of my attention throughout this entire movie. If you're still not big into scary horror movies, I'm not saying this is going to convert you to liking all of them. This was kind of a diamond in the rough. This not only had a lot of jump scares and a lot of scary stuff that you see in a lot of these types of movies, but again, it had like an interesting sort of metaphor going on here and everything like that. And I felt like a lot of people can relate to one piece or another of it. Mm-hmm. And the effects were great. The acting was phenomenal. And when you look at, I mean, you mentioned this how many times, how it was made by a couple of YouTubers or whatever. And this was like their first feature film.
Yeah.
Like walking up to the plate and hitting it out of the park like that right away is impressive as heck. Yep. And I gotta give him a shout out on that one. So.
And I think, especially with Godzilla and -1, both the budget's small, mm-hmm. but you have filmmakers that are like filmmaking used to be. You hardly had any money, and you had to be creative and inventive, and like, oh, we're gonna do this way because it looks cooler that way. Whereas a lot of times now with big media corporate movies, you don't get that individuality, but. Obviously, we'll talk about some films that do that, but majority of films aren't like that. Where these two they were just like a flash and there's still creativity out there and new ways to do things.
All right, so let's get into a little bit more of the negative part of the conversation here. Once again, you know, we like to praise and lift up filmmakers as we just did there with Surprising, but every once in a while, much like a misbehaving puppy, you just got to look at it and go, no, bad. That was bad. So let's talk about our least favorite movies of the year here. Ryan, I'll have us kick us off here. What was your least favorite movie of 2023?
Now, this could be somewhat controversial.
It wouldn't be you if it wasn't.
The movie in question I watched, I did not like for many things. All I can say is Captain Marvel was terrible. I did not like the Marvels. I'm sorry. I thought the whole cat thing was terrible. I could not stand that. I watched that. I saw that, and I thought, that is so dumb and only in there just for them to escape. I liked Kamala Khan. What's her name?
I think it's Kamala Khan.
Kamala Khan?
Yeah.
She was great. I thought she was awesome.
You should really watch the Miss Marvel series. She's pretty good in that
actually, after watching this, I might watch it because I liked her character. The rest of the movie, I thought was terrible. I don't even remember what the bad person's name was. I don't remember anything about the movie. I just hated it.
I feel like I'm on an island.
But I liked watching it to laugh at it, but that was about it. And you could definitely tell some of the editing errors and because that thing was reshot and shot. And I like when I pick up on stuff like that in movies that brings me joy. Like, you messed up. The very first one I remember seeing was Twilight. I don't remember if it was the second one, third one, but they had an over-the-shoulder shot, and then they were conversation, and his button was buttoned, and then the other one, it was off, and then it was back to being buttoned, and then off, and I don't know. Just terrible movie. I'm sorry. That's controversial. I'm sorry.
So I did not plan this, but both of our least favorite movies both featured Brie Larson. I would argue mine, though, is not the fault of Brie Larson, though.
No.
And I would argue Marvel's is not the fault of Brie Larson.
No, I'm not sitting. It was nothing against Brie Larson. Obviously,
it's just a weird coincidence here. So I'm just getting in front of that before people start hating on us.
Because I'll say Brie Larson is a good actor. Mm-hmm. I don't like her in the Captain Marvel movies.
I think she's fine.
In other movies, she's great.
The one I'm gonna say is my least favorite here is Fast X. The joke has worn off on me at this point. How all of the rest of you can still find enjoyment in this.
They got Jason Momoa now.
And he might have been the only good thing in this one, but my God. Look, I get it. Turn your brain off movie, like whatever. You can use that as an excuse. I don't like that excuse, but you can use that as an excuse. Even turning your brain off, there is some stupid stuff in this movie.
Is that the one where he pulls the chains down?
No, that's that seventh one you showed me.
Yeah,
that's like one of the only ones I've never seen.
I'm gonna pull you.
But this one has almost as dumb of things. He pulls down 2 helicopters with his car.
Yeah,
that is not how that works. No. He goes down the Hoover Dam, out racing fire.
Yeah,
which is. No.
That's what you do.
No, you don't. Physics dictates that does not happen.
Family says you do it.
Whatever. Everyone gets resurrected here in this one. I don't even... This is... Okay, I do my best to not spoil movies when I talk about them. Every once in a while, movies will be so bad, I'm like, no, I'm going to spoil it for you. Even if you ask me not to, I'm going to spoil it for you so that you don't see it. Gal Gadot comes back here after she died in however movies ago. No. Not how she... No. Rewatch Fast 6. There's no way she's coming back from that. Not unless she is actually Wonder Woman in this universe.
She might be. You never know.
It's 2 different companies. She's Universal and Warner Brothers.
She's trying... Jason Momoa, he's just learning more about the sea.
I remember watching this movie in the theater, and I almost never think about walking out of a movie. I would have if it wasn't for one thing. I invited a friend to watch our employee showing. If I had not invited said friend, I would have left.
You would have left?
Because I'm sitting there thinking I should leave, but then I'm like, but then it's kind of awkward. Does the friend stay, or does he watch out with me? Or I was like, I guess I got to stay for that. And I can't remember the last time a movie made me that irate. Fast X sucks. Anyways, all right, let's get out of the negative zone here. Let's get some positivity. Whew.
Got to get it in.
I had to get that out. I've been holding on to that rant for a while, but and I was holding back, to be completely honest. I'll kick us off with this one here. Favorite movie of 2023. There was 2 I was debating. Mm-hmm. They were at my top 2 for a long time. They've been both movies I saw early on in the year, and they just kind of held on to this top spot. But I think I'm going to go this route. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. You know, I mentioned Wonder Woman, and I don't want to get too much in the DC comics world and everything like that, but I just haven't fallen in love with those characters. James Gunn made me feel for Rocket Raccoon, and has been making me feel. This wasn't just like a one-time thing. And this wasn't just like all of a sudden he dropped this on us. He's been setting this up. Yeah. If you watch the first Guardians, like he knew what he was doing with Rocket, and for some reason he just became the biggest character in the Guardians franchise, which has been one of the more profitable parts of the MCU when you look at it all here.
Yeah. Especially lately.
Yeah, especially lately. And everyone else is still funny, but there's still some really good action in it. I mean, it's just about everything I could ask for in a comic book movie, in a movie in general.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Guardians of the Galaxy is a fantastic film. And what a quote-unquote send-off for a lot of them.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
And it references 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Everything
Just so
references 2001: A Space
Just so
Odyssey
we
in
are
your
aware.
eyes.
Yeah.
Everything reference. You could find a reference here, probably.
Barbie, right behind you. Yep.
Oh my God, he actually did it. I didn't even set him up on that. He actually did it.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. All right, let's wrap things up here with your favorite of the year. I think a lot of people would be surprised that this wasn't my favorite, but it was close. It was in my top 3. But your number 1 pick, Mr. Meyerberg.
The best movie of 2023 was Oppenheimer. I think for not just the acting and the actual film side, but the technical side, the way Christopher Nolan was able to pull this off. Acting was fantastic. The story was great. Robert Downey Jr., Colin Murphy, everybody, great. I was lucky enough to see this in an IMAX theater on 70mm film, and it was a very surreal experience because it brought me back to the old days when I actually ran film in projectors, which was pretty cool. And yeah, it's just some of that nostalgia, obviously. But the film was fantastic. I don't understand how they... No, we're not getting into that. Great movie. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. Watch it on the best sound system you can, and the best projection that you can, TV projection, whatever. Just make sure it's the best that you can. If it's your home theater, if it's a theater at a friend's house, or just don't watch it on your phone.
Please don't watch it on your phone.
No.
Please. I will say my one final thought with Oppenheimer is it feels like every couple of years there is one summer blockbuster that maybe gets Oscar, or there's always a couple of summer blockbusters that probably should get Oscar attention.
Yeah.
One maybe gets one award or something like that.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see multiple nominations from this.
I think so too. Hopefully he gets a good amount of wins, and I hope it's not just Christopher Nolan. I hope it's a lot of the crew that he had working with him. They did some absolutely fantastic things, such as creating 70mm black and white film. That's never been done before. IMAX 70mm black and white film has never been done before. So that's new. The way they got the molecules and how that looked and what they actually did in real life, it's crazy. So hopefully there's a lot of love that goes around. It's not just for Christopher Nolan or just the actors. It's for everybody that worked on it.
Yeah.
Because you and I both know making productions, it's a whole team. Mm-hmm. It's not just one or two people. It's everybody.
For sure. But with that, let's move into let's finally get out of 2023.
Yeah.
It wasn't a bad year. It wasn't a great year. I thought it was a pretty good year for movies in general.
Yeah.
But let's look forward here to 2024 and specifically January. Like I said, the dump month. Oof. Not a lot of great stuff coming out here, but there are still a few things here that may be interesting to some people. So let's break some of that down here. Thursday, January 4th, coming to Netflix, Society of the Snow, based on the true story of the 1970s Chilean. There we go. We'll stick with that. Chilean rugby team that crashed in the snowy Andes Mountains. Unfortunately, in the real-life scenario here, only about half of the team survived, a little over half the team, I guess I should say, survived, and this shows essentially how they did it.
Yep, which is crazy. Couple of things. One, rugby players are tough, so no wonder. Two, it looks awesome. Looks good.
It does look really good. I will say, given the circumstances that this trailer shows off, I think it's a miracle that many of them did send. Yeah, anybody ended up surviving. So much as like half the team. I mean, this Castaway had its like threats, had its tension and all that, but it had like a lot of like downtime too. But it was good downtime. Here, it just feels like at any moment, any of them could like just be out for the count. Yeah.
And that's another thing. You're going from probably Chile. They're flying somewhere, and they go down in the Andes Mountains. You're dressed like you would be dressed like us, and now you're out on the side of a mountain with 2 feet of snow, winds blowing. It's just crazy to think
of it the flip side. We're used to colder temperatures living up here. Now, say we get stranded out in Death Valley. Out in the desert areas here in this country, like I'm sorry. It's not gonna go well.
No,
it's not gonna go well. Also coming out here, looking at the weekend premieres, Friday, January 5th, the big premiere here, Memory. This one's coming to theaters. Jessica Chastain and Peter Sarsgaard star in this one. Chastain plays a social worker who basically takes on Sarsgaard under her care as he has extreme memory issues. It doesn't really get into how or why. I don't know if they ever say it's dementia or maybe he got hit in the head and he just... has memory issues, and it doesn't really get into that. It just kind of is like he's got trouble with memory, and he needs help all the time here. Help. And Chastain kind of takes on that role here. This looks super good. The performances do look pretty good. However, I don't know if this was just me, but the trailer was very undercut by the fact that it was produced by an entertainment company called Ketchup Entertainment.
Oh, yeah.
That was the first thing I saw in the trailer I saw was Ketchup Entertainment. And I'm like, what is this? What's going on here?
I like that.
I like Ketchup too, but I don't know if they should be producing a Jessica Chastain memory movie really as much. But I don't know. I don't want it. Don't let that influence your decision, people, as it did mine.
Yeah,
but.
I like Peter Sarsgaard and I like Jessica Chastain a lot. So... it looks good. It'll be fun.
I was curious also, this trailer did at some point kind of, I don't want to say, it kind of looked like there was a few moments where Chastain's character was almost like calling him out.
Yeah.
The trailer doesn't really imply this, but I'm curious now, if watching this, it's kind of like the reason why she takes him under her care is to kind of figure out if he's bluffing almost.
Yeah.
That's just totally a theory. That is totally a theory. There's nothing in here that says that specifically.
Because it could be like a very emotional, how bad for you kind of a thing, or it could be a, hey, you're faking some of this, like you're just trying to,
Also coming out to theaters here this weekend, Night Swim. Family moves into a new home with a pool. Seems like a pretty perfect set of circumstances. All in the suburbia. Young family. Got a cool pool. Going to host some pool parties. Yep. Summertime. Going to be lit. Oh, but what's that? Uh-oh. The pool is haunted. I guess. I don't know. Are we running out of things to be possessed by a demon?
I don't know, but it's awesome.
It's awesome. This is another James Wan thing. He just did Megan last year, came out around the same time. That one did pretty good as well.
Yep.
I would expect maybe something similar here. But is he just like, does he just have like a spin board in his office where he's like, all right, what's going to be possessed this time? We already did doll.
No, it's like the episode of South Park, how they write Family Guy channels. The orcas moving the balls. It's like, oh, horror.
Someone put swimming pool as a joke, but then it actually landed on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, I would have really liked to have been in the room for the pitch meeting on that one. Could you imagine? I'm just being like, okay, look, so picture demon doing the usual demon stuff that we know what to do.
Yep.
Creepy stuff at night. But this time, it's a pool.
It'd be great.
It might be. It does look kind of creepy. I will say I haven't seen this many nighttime scary pool shots since like Paranormal Activity. I think it was 2. It might have been 2 or 3 or something like that. But pools can be scary.
They can.
If you leave your kid unattended or whatever.
If you're a parent of young ones, a pool is scary.
So yeah, this could
a home pool is scary.
Yeah, I would be curious to see if this does as well as Megan did last year. But I don't know. I don't feel like I've seen as much marketing around this one. Like Megan, there was like this viral campaign.
Yep.
You had the dance and all that.
Yeah,
stuff
there's a lot more things I think you could do.
Yeah, how do you?
Especially,
I guess how do you promote this movie? It's a pool.
Half the United States right now, you can't be outside.
Yeah. So how do you promote? This would have been a better summer movie, don't you think?
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But finally, also coming out to Netflix here on January 5th, Good Grief. No, this is not a live-action Charlie Brown story. It's more depressing than a Charlie Brown story, actually, if you could believe that. Written, directed, and starring Dan Levy, it details one man's experience of grief after losing their husband a year ago. Definitely not going to be the most feel-good movie of the year if you're looking for something to kind of pick up your spirits right away in 2024.
Yeah.
But if you can kind of take on something like that, I think it is something everyone can relate to. Everyone experiences loss at some point or another, and everyone deals with it differently. Grief is complicated.
Yep.
And for some people, it takes a little bit longer to get over things than others. That's just how people are built differently here. And kind of one of the things I got from this trailer was it's like he's got his two friends that are with him and supporting him. But after a while, it's like, even after like a year, it's like, come on, can't you help us out here a little bit? Can you get over it a little bit? Maybe that's maybe the implication I got here, but I don't know. Grief is complicated. It is a hard thing to quantify as far as when should you get over
the
it?
appropriate time. Yeah, because everybody's different.
Yeah,
everybody's different.
But performances do look good. Dan, is it Levy? Am I pronouncing that right?
Is
it Levy or Levy?
I think it's Levy.
Levy? Okay, we'll go with that then. He's generally known more for doing some comedic stuff. So the fact that he's not only written, directed, and starring in this a little bit more sadder thing, he's kind of taking on the challenge of a different genre, a different role here, and taking a very
Which
big.
Could be good.
I mean, it's happened before.
Yep.
If you would have told me 10 years ago Jordan Peele was going to direct one of the greatest horror movies of all time, I've been like, you're crazy.
You're crazy.
So it's sometimes, you never know. Sometimes people just have different interests in genres and stuff like that. But that's everything coming out here this weekend. Let's talk about some things we saw in the past here. It's time for number one recommends. I've been catching up on a lot of movies for my end of the year list, my top 52. Why 52? Because there's 52 weeks in the year, and I try to see one new thing each week. So it's a little bit different. Go and check that out if you haven't already. That's my camera. I pointed to the wrong one. There we go. But one that did make it onto my top 52, and I believe made it into the top 10 as kind of a late game push there, The Holdovers. We talked about this movie on this show. We were both very excited for it. It came to Peacock, so you can watch it there right now if you want. Paul Giamatti is fantastic. No surprise there. There's a very small supporting cast around him, though, and they're like right with him throughout the whole movie. Like he, most of the times, is like running laps around people in his acting, but they're like right with them, keeping up with him the whole time there.
That's good.
I got to give it to the supporting cast there. But the other thing is, I got to give a shout out to the technical side. It was set in the 70s. It's made to look like a 70s movie, like it came out in the 70s. The look, the feel, the sound of it, it all felt like I was watching a movie that was produced in the 1970s. So they nailed it on that part. Another one that just kind of checked all the boxes that they were going for there. So got to recommend that one.
I remember seeing commercials or trailers for that so long ago, and now I'm actually going to be able to see it because I wanted to see this for a long time.
Yep.
And Paul Giamatti is one of my top tier actors. One of the top for me.
I wouldn't be surprised if he gets an Oscar nom or two. I guess you can only get one, really, but for this one. So, Ryan, what do you got here? What's your number one recommend this week?
Over the holiday season, maybe a little bit before, maybe around there, I watched Leave This World Behind. Really enjoyed it. What's his name? You know. Ethan Hawke.
Hawke. What did you expect me to get out of that?
I don't know. Ethan Hawke, he's great. He's phenomenal. It's definitely a good full cast movie. I think it's Idris Elba. No.
Mahershala
Ali. Fantastic. He was great in this. Kind of goes to show you with where the world could potentially be going with cyber security and electric cars and getting off the grid and all of that. I enjoyed it, and it kind of gave I really liked it, and the notion of strangers showing up to not your home but their home, it's wild, and like big world events that happen. It's just, I really enjoyed it. I liked it. It was very unsettling. And, just check it out.
Well, that's going to do it for us here on this episode of Popcorn Bucket List, the first one of 2024.
Woo!
There we go. Yeah, we're back at it, baby.
We're back at it,
we're
baby.
We're back into it. Once again, head on over to the Marshall Lyon County Library to check out our display and see some of our picks for some of the best movies of 2023. And as always, check out the movies we talk about on this episode, as well as past ones over at the Marshall 6 Theater. For myself and Ryan Myberg, we'd like to thank you so much for watching, and we will see you at the movies.